Hello everybody, this is Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw! And it is Monday. You know what that means. It is time for a tier list. And today, I think it's only appropriate, given that mobile is coming out. We don't know if the game is going to get patched balance-wise. However, I kind of think maybe not. So for the sake of it, this is the definitive tier list for the game currently. And I wasn't sure if I, Jake number 4, should do this list, or maybe, I don't know, something crazy, Jake number 6. But given that we now have an uneasy alliance, I think it would be appropriate for Jake number 3. Oh. Please, take it away, my good man. While I question our alliance more and more every day, I'd be honored. Okay, so a couple of things up top. First of all, some of your favorite Pokemon are going to be very, very low on this list. I am sorry about that. It is just the truth. I'm just giving you the truth, man. Second of all, it doesn't mean that you can't play any of these Pokemon at a very, very high level. You could play the Pokemon that I think are not very good, and you could crush me with them. Not the best team comp wins all the time. However, I'm going to try to give you an idea of what Pokemon are the best in the game due to them being overtuned and how they work inside the meta, and I'm going to try to explain to you how that all works. Join me, won't you? All right, here are our categories for our tier list. Learn to speak, Jake. All right, on to the categories for our tier list. We have the God tier, of course. There can only be one God. We're not friggin' Norse over here. The so good it hurts tier, the good second choices tier, the B tier, still got the B tier, and the no tier. So some Pokemon will fall into this tier. Again, I'm sorry if they're your mains. I'm sorry if you like these Pokemon. You could be amazing with them. They just don't fit well into the current meta of the game. Here we go. Let's start with someone who is so good it hurts. One of the best Pokemon in the game right now. Let's start with Greninja. Greninja is really amazing. Greninja has completely taken over the 80 carry spot that Cinderace once had. After Cinderace got nerfed a little while back and Greninja got buffed with its Water Shuriken, Greninja is just inside of every game, most often taking the role of the jungle, but it still does decently well in lane. I think Greninja's surf ability is probably a little more ideal for the meta, but Water Shuriken is also an extremely useful move. The thing that's so amazing about Greninja is not only can you do damage at range, you can also get closer to people and assassinate them. You also have a multi-enemy assassinate move with surf. You could do tons of chip damage with Water Shuriken and keep yourself safe. It's great for fighting at objectives. It's great for stealing some of the bigger objectives like Dreadnought and Rotom. I think Greninja is in a really wonderful place as one of the probably most picked and most useful Pokemon in the game because it deals out a ton of damage and it executes really, really, really well. Let's head on into the B tier. Someone who belongs in the B tier is Charizard. So Charizard runs into the problem that a lot of the all-rounders run into, which is they don't excel anywhere as good as maybe another unit that could be there. And it's interesting because their name is all-rounders, so they could go a lot of different places. And they actually perform pretty well, a lot of the all-rounders here. Charizard, I think, really excels actually in the jungle because it gets its level fast enough to have its Unite move. Once Charizard has its Unite move, it's really brutal and can help you take out enemy carries. For that reason, I really like Charizard. However, the problem is when you put Charizard in the jungle, you are sacrificing someone else in the jungle who benefits more. Someone like a Greninja, for instance. So Charizard is in this bad spot where to take Charizard means you don't take someone else that could actually benefit from the experience more. You're going to get more use usually out of a Greninja than you are out of a Charizard. Also in lane, Charizard is really tough to lane with early on. Not one of the most difficult ones to lane with. This doesn't fall into the no tier, and I actually think with just a little tweak, Charizard could rise to one of the better picks inside the meta. Right now, the big problem is In the jungle, there are other people you want there. Multiple. I can look at so many people on this list who would do better in the jungle than Charizard. And because of that, you'd have to put Charizard in the lane. And you'd really rather not have Charizard in the lane compared to some others. And this is really how things rank out inside of a tier list is, well, would you like Charizard? It would be okay, but you'd rather have someone else. Let's talk about someone else you'd rather have if you were looking at perhaps the laning phase. I would rather have Ninetales in the lane. Ninetales is amazing inside lane, not so great inside jungle. I don't think you should jungle with Ninetales. It doesn't have very much mobility. But inside the lane, early on and into the mid game, Ninetales is an amazing choice and absolutely dominates early in the lane. Something that's evolving in the meta right now is a 1-1-3, which means one Pokemon on the top lane, one Pokemon in the central area or jungle, and 3 Pokemon in the bottom lane. I don't know if this is going to become commonplace, but it's something I see a lot. And if you want to fight off a 3-person lane, Ninetales is a pretty amazing Pokemon to have on your side. Charizard would get absolutely destroyed in that situation. Charizard would also get destroyed in a situation where it's the 1-person top. Even in a 2-person lane, you would always rather have a Ninetales than you would a Charizard. And this is how Charizard makes it to be, and Ninetales makes it to good second choices. I used to say Ninetales was so good it hurts, but I think there's a few things in the meta that maybe move Ninetales down a little bit. I think so. And let me talk to you about one of them. One of the reasons Ninetales is not as good as it could be is someone like Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is unbelievably powerful right now. It's, in my opinion, definitely going to get a nerf soon. If you were to put these anywhere, I would put Wigglytuff probably at the top of so good it hurts. There are a few other Pokemon fighting with it there. Greninja is definitely one of them. Wigglytuff's ability to sing people to sleep, the entire enemy team at points if used correctly, slow them down with its slaps or dazzling gleam if you're mirroring another Wigglytuff. It's pretty amazing, and this is the kind of Pokemon that can walk right up to Ninetales and shut them down, and especially walk up to someone like a Charmander, Charmeleon, depending on where they are evolved at that point. It evolves at level 4, so does Ninetales, and then it is, it gets a big power spike at that point, and it's really amazing in lane. It's also really amazing late game. I think Wigglytuff, as well as another Pokemon that we'll get to later, hurt Ninetales a little bit with just how amazingly good they are. Let's get someone in the no list. This is sad, but it's a no-fly zone. Talonflame. Talonflame doesn't fit well into the game right now at a high level of play. Again, as you're climbing the ranks, you're playing Talonflame, you could crush and win tons of matches with it. You could be one of the best Talonflame players out there and do very, very well. I'm not discounting that. The only problem is, as the game goes on, you become less and less useful. Pretty good early on, and a lot of speedsters kind of fall into this area, but a lot worse as the game progresses, specifically near the end. Its Unite move needs some help. It's a really cool Unite move, but it actually just doesn't feel as impactful as you think it would, and it's really weak, weak isn't right. It's really frail near the end of the game, and it's really easy to just take it out. You could try to steal something with it, but it's not even one of the best at stealing Zapdos or Dreadnought or anything like that. It's pretty good early and decent mid game, and really rough later on inside the match. Let's see. Let's do another... You know what? Let's do another good second choice here. Mr. Mime, I think, is a really good second choice. It's definitely not Wigglytuff levels good. And the interesting thing about the supports is all of the supports are pretty dang useful in this game. So any of them that you pick are actually going to be pretty good. Mr. Mime is no exception. I think Mr. Mime really excels when you pair it with someone like Ninetales, but you can pair Mime with a lot of people and have a really brutal lane. You could pair Mime with Lucario, Pikachu, Snorlax, Cramorant. Like, you just see so many situations where you think, yeah, Mime would really crush there. And I think the only thing holding Mime back from being picked more often are other choices that are just a tad stronger, like Wigglytuff. If you have one support on your team, I would always rather have Wigglytuff than Mime. And Wigglytuff is just, whew, it's so easy to be so dominant with Wiggly. But I like Mime a lot, and I think it is a really solid second choice. In fact, I could see a team with both Wiggly and Mime on it, and I think that would be a really strong choice. Let's talk about more supports while we're here. We have Blissey, and we have Eldegoss. So, as I said a moment ago, these supports are good, really good, and in some senses, I kind of think everyone... You could honestly see almost all of them in the So Good It Hurts category, but I would put both Blissey and Eldegoss in So Good It Hurts. Eldegoss may be bumped down to good second choice, but these supports are game-changing. If you have a good support on your team, it can change the entire dynamic of the game. It's tough playing support in a solo queue situation because you might be supporting teammates that don't really know how to best interact with you, so it's hard for you to support your team when they're not really sure how to play with you. It's better when you can talk to somebody, of course, or if you could just notice inside the match, hey, our Greninja's pretty good, I'm gonna do everything I can to support our Greninja. I would say all the supports except for Mime, and maybe even Mime in some cases, rise into the So Good It Hurts category. Blissey can heal, its Safeguard can remove hindrances and remove future hindrances while its shield is currently on. Its Unite move is really incredible. Its Helping Hand increases movement speed and attack speed and later attack damage for the entire team. Unbelievably good. Eldegoss is a little more of a sort of warrior type support. I called it a warrior cleric in a video. Someone said it's more like a warrior paladin, or more like a paladin, Jake. So, boy, I said that word multiple different ways. So, yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. You heal your team. You also do a ton of damage because you're fighting at range. I think its Leaf Tornado is really amazing, but so is its Pollen Puff. Eldegoss did get a nerf a little while back. I believe at the same time Cinderace got a nerf, but it's still extremely viable, especially when running multiple supports. I will say, if I am running multiple supports, I probably am going to have one of those spots with Wiggly and then one of the other supports, but I could see you running multiple supports without Wiggly. I do, especially in tournaments where Wiggly is banned at times. I could see something like that happening. Let's see, who next? How about Pikachu? Oops, I grabbed Machamp. Pikachu. Pikachu is an interesting one because early on, very good. Mid game, pretty dang good. Late game, really, really, really tough to make the kind of impact that you need to make. So early on, you're getting tons of KOs and you're assassinating really well with Pikachu. And in the mid game, you're still doing that as well. But near the end, those last few fights, it just feels like your damage output falls off a cliff. And when you're fighting around Zapdos, it just doesn't give you enough in that fight. I feel like this Pokemon is right there with Charizard, where as soon as Pikachu gets a buff, a little bit of a buff, you know, late game, I think he's going to become a much, much more viable choice. One of my favorite Pokemon to play, actually, and someone that I rode into Masters with a really high win rate was Pikachu, and I think you give this little guy a buff, ooh, we would see some amazing Pikachu plays. Right now, the damage just falls off too hard, and when you compare him to someone else who maybe has a little more utility in a similar role, I would choose them. Let's talk about that person right now. Cramorant. Cramorant is similar to Pikachu in that they're both range sort of artillery mages, and it doesn't have the assassination ability that Pikachu has with its Electro Ball, but the amount of crowd control it could do, or CC as it's called, is pretty amazing. Hurricane knocks people up and sets it up for you and your team. Surf has a ton of damage and also has a knock up and almost a pull back towards you ability. Plus, it has one of the most devastating devastating, if not the most devastating unites in the game, not only for dealing damage, but also for zoning out the enemy. I think Cram still hangs out in the so good it hurts category, but would drop off a bit into the good second choices if the enemy team was extremely tanky. And we are seeing a very, very tanky meta, so perhaps I could see someone saying that Cram is a good second choice if every Pokemon is available to you, but right now I think it's probably the best artillery mage in the game, and it has incredible crowd control, which is why I think it's in the so good it hurts category. Let's talk about a mage that falls into the good second choices, and that would be Gardevoir. I almost want to put Gardevoir into the B tier. It's close, and it has a similar issue to Charizard, and that is it needs so much experience to get good. In some ways, I kind of think it's a B tier choice just because it takes a long time to evolve. Before it evolves, it's so weak. Its laning phase is so bad. You want to put it in the jungle. This is one of the few Pokemon that if you play Gardevoir top lane, I wouldn't even really be upset if Gardevoir stayed top during the Dreadnought fight. Again, you don't want this, but it needs so much experience to get good. Solo queue, I would say this is a B tier choice. Not solo queue, this moves into the good second choices. But Gardevoir is really hurt by the fact that it takes so long to get good. Once it's good, it's pretty dang good. And a jungle in Gardevoir actually works really well. You have a ton of damage output near that first dread. But otherwise, I think it's really tough to get this Pokemon online. Let's talk about another Pokemon that's tough to get online. Garchomp. Garchomp, I don't think falls all the way into the no tier, but it's really close. And it's not that it's not good. It's good. It's even worse in some ways than Gardevoir because you have to be up in people's faces with Garchomp. It's so tough because it doesn't have a way to execute Pokemon. When I talk about execute, in case you're not sure what I mean by that, some Pokemon do a large amount of burst damage, and specifically more burst damage the lower the enemy's HP is. Garchomp has none of this, so it does really well chipping away at things with its auto attacks, and its auto attacks get ramped up and start going really fast. But you can kind of just walk away from Garchomp a lot of the time, let its attacks reset, and then go back in to fight it. It also doesn't have a way to finish things super well. That includes enemy Pokemon and objectives. So I think they still need to buff Garchomp a little bit. I'm getting a phone call. Don't worry, it wasn't important. Okay, where were we? Garchomp and now something else. Who to talk about next? Let's talk about a weird one that I'm not really sure where to put, and that is Venusaur. So Venusaur is an interesting Pokemon because its Solar Beam and Sludge Bomb build got a buff, and it is a lot better. It's a lot better. It's just there are other people I'd probably rather have on my team, which is why I think it hovers into the good second choices category. I would probably have it on my team over Pikachu, but then again, the way I see many Venusaur players engage in the last fight, or should I say not engage in the last fight, the Zapdos fight, and just wait for a snipe, it's a little frustrating, but you can get a lot of great objective steals and a lot of great Pokemon KOs with it. You scare the enemy a lot of the match. They're worried that they're just going to get hit with that Solar Beam at all times. So I really like Venusaur. I think it's a good option for the team, but again, there are other people I would rather see on my squad. I'd rather see Cramorant, Ninetales, even though Ninetales isn't in the same role, really. That's kind of where I see Venusaur being. Let's talk about someone else who I think has fallen off quite a bit, and that's Cinderace. Cinderace is good. It was great, but now Greninja has really taken over where Cinderace used to reign supreme. So I think Cinderace is always a secondary choice to Greninja. I think I'd pick Greninja every time over Cinder. I still think Cinder's good, but man, that damage has really fallen off. And it also, similar to someone like Garchomp, has no incredible execute abilities. It's not as low as Garchomp with that. Its Unite move is pretty good for stealing certain things and getting some KOs, but I think with the damage fall off that Cinderace had, Greninja just beats it in every conceivable way. So I have to say it's a good second choice. Because of how good Greninja is and how prevalent Greninja is, you almost could see Cinderace falling into the B tier, but I still think it hangs out in the game for the most part. I'll talk about another no. And I hate to be like this, but it's another speedster. And it's because of where the speedsters are in the game. Really good early, even though there are some people that are not speedsters that are just as good. Pretty good mid game, really weak late game. Again, if you're great, you're great. And then I get it. You're amazing with Absol. I won't disagree with you. I'm sure you could dominate some matches. But in the meta, it's just so frail near the end. It's so useless in that final team fight compared to so many people because its damage output just can't keep up anymore like it did early game. Early game, you get these crits for 2,000 damage and you're KOing people so easy. Late game, there are so many Pokemon that could zone you out. You know, you're fighting in there with these massive defenders and all-rounders with tons of health. It just, you really fall off late game. I hate to say it. I think you're probably better than Talonflame, but I'm not sure. Both of these are in a really tough spot in the meta, and I hope we see some speedster love soon because I think speedsters in general are in a tough spot. Let's talk about the rest of the speedsters. Gengar falls somewhere between no, and B. And the reason is I think Gengar's Shadow Ball, giving it that range so that it can actually play a little further back than some of the other speedsters is decent. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the B tier. It used to be a much stronger choice. Even though I don't think it was ever as strong as people thought, it used to be a much stronger choice. Right now, it's frail. Its Unite's not very good, in my opinion, especially near the end of the game. Its Shadow Ball does pretty good damage, which is what maybe moves it out of the no tier, but if I'm being honest, I don't want to see it on my team, and I don't think it contributes that well to some of the bigger moments inside the match, some of the bigger team fight moments. There is a speedster who does, however, and that's Zeraora. Zeraora is actually really good. I feel like I've undervalued Zeraora for a while, personally. The more I play with Zeraora, I actually think it's the only speedster that's really viable inside the meta. This might actually still hang out in a good second choice category, but for the sake of showing Zeraora some love, and to just talk about how it works against some of the best Pokemon in the meta, I think Zeraora is incredibly good. Zeraora destroys people like Cramorant, Greninja, Ninetales, Venusaur, Cinderace, Pikachu. It really does well against tons of the carries inside the game. It has incredible mobility. Its discharge is very good and sounds gross. Its Unite move is pretty good, but it's a sure hit, which is what's really nice about it, so you can really get some incredible KOs with it. It's good against objectives. I actually think Zeraora is one of the better choices to have on a team. It's tough because you probably want it in the jungle. However, it actually lanes pretty well. So you could still have Greninja or whoever else in the jungle, and Zeraora would be a reasonable choice to be in lane and does pretty well throughout the entire match. So I think Zeraora really the only viable speedster in the game right now. Now we're talking about a lot of people who are actually still really good. I'll get one out of the way that I just think unfortunately hangs out in B tier, maybe the top of B tier, and that's Machamp. And it's that it's not bad. I've seen some really great Machamps, but I just don't know where it fits. Bottom lane, maybe, but I'd rather have a Wiggly than a Machamp. And they don't necessarily fill the same kind of role, but they kind of do because Machamp has that submission and CC. It's going to do more damage, but Wiggly does a ton of damage. I'd kind of rather have a Mime than a Machamp, and this is just why it falls into the B tier and why kind of the all-rounders all fall lower on the tier list is because they don't do something so well that you'd want to swap someone out for it. You might say that this is a good second choice, but then again, second choice to what? What am I replacing Machamp for? Am I swapping out maybe a second support? So instead of running Wiggly Eldegoss, Wiggly Blissey or something, I'm running Wiggly Machamp? I don't know. It's really weak in lane. It's not so great in jungle either. It has some problems. It needs a little more. Maybe even, I know it has a lot of good survivability and damage, but it might need even more to rise into the meta here. So we now have all of our defenders left and our final all-rounder. Let's talk about defenders last, and we will talk about Lucario first. Lucario is one of the best Pokemon in the game by far. All of its builds, except for its close combat, are good. It does insane damage. Its Unite move is kind of whatever, but besides that, it's so incredibly good. It lasts forever because of its passive. It executes objectives. Lucario is amazing. It's either Lucario or Wiggly in the so good it hurts tier. It's either Lucario or Wiggly. They're both incredible. They're both going to see nerfs coming. They're just so good. So obviously you can see that the God tier is going to be one of our defenders, and I don't see a reason to kind of belabor this any longer. Belabor? Would that be right? It's Blastoise. Blastoise is too good. Blastoise is the best Pokemon in the game. Blastoise can jungle. Blastoise can go in any lane. Blastoise steals objectives. Blastoise KOs enemy Pokemon. Blastoise can't be hindered when it's in its rapid spin. So Wiggly, Ninetales, all these Pokemon that want to slow it down, you can't slow it down. You can't stop it. It's the best Pokemon in the game, I think, by far. If you could have a Blastoise on your team, you should always have a Blastoise on your team. Playing solo, Blastoise, I think, is probably the best Pokemon to play solo because, again, you can take objectives with it. If you have a fluffy tail and rapid spin water spout build and you jump onto an objective, you can steal tons of things with it. It's amazing. The meta is incredibly tanky right now anyway, so you've already got this amazing Pokemon, and now you can't KO it. It has so much defense, so much life, so much attack damage. It's by far the best Pokemon in the game, in my opinion. Only rivaled really by Wiggly and Lucario. Greninja also pretty amazing, but these three are, in my opinion, the holy trinity right now. Holy trinity? What am I talking about? All right, let's talk about the other defenders who are all frigging amazing. Crustle, Slowbro, Snorlax. Crustle, Slowbro, and Snorlax are all great. They're all great choices, but I'm going to try to rank them a little bit here, and I think it would look something like this. It would have Crustle and Snorlax probably in the so good it hurts tier, and Slowbro as a good second choice. Slowbro actually shuts down quite a few Pokemon with its Unite move, and it's really tanky. Its telekinesis is great if you're good at, you know, grabbing the enemy carry and letting your team focus them down. I really like Slowbro, but its only issue is it falls into a category of all monsters. Every defender in this game is so good. Crustle is like the true speedster of the game. Many people have said this before, but it's so accurate. Crustle plays the game differently. Crustle plays the game in the way I think they intended the speedsters to play the game, where you're all over the map, you're stealing wild Pokemon, you're stealing objectives, you're scoring, you're counter scoring, you can make it to anything on time. I really think they thought that the speedsters would all feel more like Crustle feels inside the meta, and Crustle's really amazing. Snorlax also so good. The only thing that even hurts Snorlax is Blastoise, really. Crustle and Blastoise don't really compete with each other for the same role all the time, especially if you're playing the Water Spout Blastoise. In some ways, it still doesn't, they're not really competing, but you only have so many slots to pick up, and because of that, I think Snorlax kind of has become the second or even third to Crustle's choice as far as defenders go, but you can't go wrong with any defender inside this game. Blastoise is the best, but Snorlax's ability to block and move people around as a very tanky defender role, incredible. Its flail build also can be very good. Crustle, in my opinion, really has two builds, which is Shell Smash, and then either the X Scissor or Stealth Rock. I think Stealth Rock is currently the way to go, especially when playing solo queue, because you need to be able to take objectives, and that helps you steal and secure objectives. So all the defenders right now, amazing. Really, they're all so good. The only thing that Slowbro doesn't have, it's just not as CC heavy as Snorlax. It definitely doesn't come anywhere close to Crustle and Crustle's use. It doesn't do anywhere near the amount of damage Blastoise does, so that's why I have to put it in the good second choices. But when you're looking at the game, coming out soon on mobile, without changing how the game works, this is, in my opinion, I guess it's over there, right? There. This is a very definitive list of some of the best Pokemon in the game and some of the Pokemon who need the most help, which would be most of the people in the B tier and in the no tier really do need some help. But I'm curious what you think in the comments. And of course, we have to have a little fun because, you know, it's always fun to mess around and just see what happens. Let's see what happens if we mess around. Let's have some fun with messing around. Yeah. Okay. We're messing around. We're having some fun. And we're messing around. That is why Venusaur is the best. The only thing that matters is Zapdos. Zapdos is the game. You have to secure Zapdos, and Venusaur's Snipe secures it better than anyone, followed by Cinderace. Cinderace's Unite move. Basically, this game, nothing matters up until the 2-minute mark, and at that point, it is Zapdos. How do you get Zapdos? You let the enemy team fight it the whole time. You don't really engage with them much. You maybe counter score a little bit, and then you have Venusaur or Cinderace possibly around to steal it, followed, of course, by someone like Talonflame. If you have Mr. Mime and Snorlax to block the enemies in that moment, you see Zapdos is going low, you start using Mr. Mime's walls and Snorlax's block, you move the enemies out, and then one of these 4 Pokemon, basically, Venusaur, Cinderace, Talonflame, or Zeraora, steals it. The rest of the time, you're counter scoring, and then you're waiting for that big steal. So let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this. I love you all. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye. Mwah!